Let's just start with like an introduction. You can tell me where you're from originally, where you're based now, the kinds of projects that you work on.
Totally. Yeah, so my name's Jack Hessler. I grew up outside of Boston and live in Salt Lake City now. And originally kind of got into filmmaking from making snowboard and skateboard videos. But over the last decade, have basically just become a full-time editor. And so started most of my career in like the like from snowboard videos to a lot of outdoor films and like branded short films and series and feature docs. And then over the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot more into cutting narrative films.
Yeah, I've watched quite a few from your website. You've got some really beautiful work there. And a nice,
Thank you.
like diverse mix. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's always fun to be able to work on different types of projects. I feel like that helps when things feel stagnant and like with burnout, if it's just like completely different type of thing and it's still just like storytelling and trying to build an emotional connection with the character, whether they're a fictional or a real person. But it can help to have some various stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah. And are you still snowboarding as much? Are you still competitive?
Not competitive. I was up until a couple of years ago, but it just takes so much time. And like the older you get, you're like, what do I really want to be spending my energy doing? And feel like a lot of people too who have any type of like aspirations with a sport or any lifestyle like that, it can become really hard to let go of the dream. And so a couple years ago, I kind of was like, I don't want to ruin my relationship with snowboarding by trying to be too serious about it. So really just got back into actually just doing it for fun. And now it's amazing. I live in Salt Lake and I edit full time, so I can like go snowboard for a few hours in the morning just to enjoy life. And then it's not like there's not the pressure of having to try to make it my job. And so now pretty much just for fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I can imagine like to have that as a passion when you're in it, you're not thinking about anything else. You're like completely present. You're in the moment. There's that bit of adrenaline. Like you feel great afterwards.
Completely. Yeah, but I really feel it because like you said, when you're snowboarding, you're just nothing exists except for trying not to like hit the tree in front of you. And so all of you, it becomes very intuitive where it's a lot more like you don't have time to react. And so I don't know if it has anything to do with like your left brain, right brain, but you really, I think, go outside of the logical side of it and you're just in the feeling. And then I feel like it's the same with editing, where when you're really in the flow and in the zone, it's you're not connecting data points in your brain. You're just like moving like a poem. And it's like one line to the next that you don't quite know exactly why you're doing it, but it just is the feeling of like following the thread.
That's awesome. How much of your sort of post-production collaboration happens in person? Do your clients come into the office with you, or do you do mostly remote?
I'd say it's probably like at this point, honestly, like 90% remote. It's like every once in a while, and I still always love being able to sit down together, and depending on the director, actually. Sometimes it's great to be sitting down with the director. Sometimes it's not, but I feel like at this point, especially on more like um, commercial or branded films, those are almost 100% remote for me at this point. And then it's just occasionally on like more passion project films, especially if the director's in Salt Lake, then we might sit down together to do it. But the majority of everything I do now is remote.
And what sort of balance is it between sending a cut and receiving notes or sitting together and making changes live?
I feel like for simpler projects, like commercials for clients that aren't super picky, those are kind of easy just to send notes and get feedback. But for stuff where the directors are more involved, or even if the client's more involved, those I feel like we've benefited a lot from being able to collaborate and like look at things together and even just to test different music options, and turn one off, turn one on, just like in the moment versus sending a cut, looking at both. Um, yeah, I feel like a lot of it is now in the kind of uh, virtual together.
So when did you first start using Louper?
I think it was like April 2023, like a pretty long time ago. And before then, I didn't have any type of remote collaboration software. It was just Frame.io and Google Drive. Um, but yeah, so kind of been using it for the last 2 years, and I feel like I've seen it go from more of like a plugin with a couple like workarounds where it was using the NDI and LBS, but till now where it's like it has the Premiere direct plugin and it's pretty seamless. Just like you send the link, click a button, boom. The whole workflow has improved so much just since I started using it, and now it's just like pretty seamless.
Cool. Let's talk about Jean Jacket. Such a cool
Yeah,
little film. Yeah, I
did you
loved
get a
it.
chance to watch it?
I did. The actress
AnnaSophia Robb.
AnnaSophia, she was like really magnetic, and she had this innocence on the one hand, like even the way she held her pen, it was like you could see this little child sort of lost in a dream world. But then on the other hand, she felt like this old, hardened widow in this youthful body. It was like she managed to sort of embody both. I thought, yeah, she was
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, I love that though, just the feeling of like that real innocence with this like hardened, beat down by the world, wiser beyond her years energy at the same time.
Do you know the origin of the story, where the idea for the script came from?
My friends Max and Lucy, who are twins that um, co-directed it together, they have made at least 3 or 4 shorts in the last like 5 years, and they kind of built this genre for themselves that I think they called like um, Rocky Mountain mythology. And so it was like the Rocky Mountain kind of modern day Western cowboy ranchers. Um, and that's, I think, like they grew up in Utah and in adjacent to that world. So they know a lot about it. But they had mainly made like horror films. And so stuff that's in, isolated wilderness ranch and these really cool, darker films about grappling with, you know, being a modern day rancher and just the problems that they face, but then going into more of a like a horror lens with it. And I think they were really building their style in that world and had become friends with AnnaSophia. And I think they were just like, we should make something together. And they're like, okay, well, this is sort of our genre that we're doing. And so I feel like this was kind of just another spin in the like the Mountain West modern day, not so much horror on this one. And I'm not sure whose idea it was originally, like of Jean Jacket in the lottery, but I think it was pretty early on, like developed with AnnaSophia.
It's a fascinating thing, right? It's like this, you pin your hopes and your dreams, and like it's like the answer to all your
It
prayers.
is kind of the symbol of, yeah, the only thing that can get you out in screenwriting or story structure, where they talk about like what does the character want versus what do they need. And the question even for Jean Jacket is like, if she wins the lotto, like, is she gonna be happy? And maybe there's something deeper there that she's still having to work through.
And at what point did you come on board?
So a couple friends, Kenny Riches, Cara Despain, and Andrew Shaw, they run a foundation called the Davy Foundation, and it's based in Salt Lake, and it's a grant giving organization for short films. So this organization, they get hundreds of scripts, and Jean Jacket was one of them that they chose for 2024. So Max and Lucy got some money to make this film, and then they were going to shoot it in June last year, 2024. And yeah, I just remember they called me because we had always talked about wanting to work on something together, and they're like, "Hey, we're getting things lined up, and like, we're trying to hit the first festival deadline in August. We're gonna shoot at the end of July. Like, do you think we can um, cut this in like 2 weeks?" When you get a call, you're like, how do I get this job? How do I do it? But and they're good friends of mine at this point too. So I was just like, yeah, I think we can make something super cool. And I have a lot of um, experience in kind of like post supervising and post producing as well. So I was like, we have a really tight timeline. We don't really have a whole bunch of money for like a post supervisor, assistant editor, online editor. So I was like, I think I can basically take the footage through delivery. And I was just like, I really like the script. I want to cut it. Like, let's make it happen.
And then how much freedom did you have, like in your first assembly? Were you working off storyboards or scripts, or was it kind of like you give us what you think and then it molded from there?
So Lucy and Max both edit as well. They're twins that direct and write and direct together. And I think they had edited all of their own films beforehand too. So this was their first time working with an outside editor. And I think Max had put together like the very first assembly, and they had storyboarded most of the stuff just with like illustrations. And so then I get all the footage and then reorganize the project to what makes sense for me. And then I'm just like, okay, give me a couple days, let me put a cut together. And then we literally had, like 2 weeks to finish it. So I was like, I'll take 3 days. And on the fourth day, let's all just sit down together. And then we were basically um, cutting together for the rest of the time. And so Max was in Salt Lake with me, so he was just coming into my office, and Lucy was in New York. And so we would just get into the office early in the morning and have our coffees, and then we'd load up Louper. And me and Max would be standing there at my desk, and Lucy was on the stream, and we just cut together for the next like 7 days.
And you were using the Transmit plugin.
Yep. Yeah, just the direct from Premiere.
Did you find that Lucy or any of the other directors you've worked with, did they enjoy seeing your timeline, or do they just want to see like the output, like full screen?
I think Lucy really appreciated seeing the timeline because she is an editor, and so she could understand what's going on. And then with some other directors, it feels like at first they like seeing the timeline, but they don't really know what's going on as much. For the most part, I feel like people like seeing the timeline, and it helps like contextualize stuff. And when we're talking about like, oh, where do we really want the music to start? Is it here or here? And it makes so much more sense when you can see the timeline versus just like watching it and guessing where it's really lined up on the first frame.
Now, I can imagine if you've never worked with an editor and you've always had that control to just try things, then now you're having to voice the things that you normally just feel and do. So yeah, there's like comfort in like seeing the timeline and just going, okay, I feel like I can trust you.
I think like since we've become pretty good friends at this point, we can just be honest with each other. And it's not, if we do something and they're like, no, that's not it. I feel like I've, especially as an editor, have learned how not to take things personally. And it's like, we're not worried about hurting my feelings, or like there's no bad ideas. It's pivoting from an idea is never about the person. It's just like we were all just committed to finding the best version of it. The whole collaboration process changed the film. Every film changes from the script to the picture lock, but like there was a couple scenes where we had shot stuff that on paper seemed really cool, and then once we were cutting it, just didn't quite. They were just a little more slow and drawn out, and we were like, do we actually need all this? And like there was one point where the camera's like looking at a gun like this, and there's the barrel right here, and it's spinning. And so at one point we spent like a couple hours figuring out how we wanted to play this part, but we tried like really punching into the barrel so that like there's a circle here, and then it was spinning, and we tried like superimposing all these different frames into the barrel. And it was like a really cool idea, but we were doing it, we were just like, I don't know if it needs, like, does it actually need this right here? But we were able just to explore and try it, and then watch it without it, and then watch it with it, and like just temp in the VFX real quick. And then ultimately we like really trimmed that whole part of the scene where she's loading the barrel, and it went from like a 30-second moment to a 15-second moment. And then we're just experimenting, and we found this part where she loads the gun, and then she's standing there, and they shot a bunch of match cuts of like her shooting cans, and it's in different times of day. And in the script, the idea was like, yeah, we're just match cutting from nighttime to morning to afternoon, and it was a super cool idea. But then just as we were cutting and experimenting, we were like, well, what if like every time she shoots, it just flashes to like, 4 frames of her dancing, and then we're just like teasing it. And then when she goes to sleep, we go into the real montage where you get to see it more. And that was just one of those things we never could have predicted or like couldn't have written, that we just found by being there together and like talking through what our problems were. And it's another one of those things that I don't think you can find that answer just from notes. Like you have to just be there and just be open, and just you can only like find it through conversation and experimentation. And so it was so amazing because it's like, who knows what the film would look like if we weren't able to have the conversation as we were cutting.
Even if you edited and Lucy edited the same footage separately, it would be two different movies, because you would have done those
Yeah.
experiments alone, like in your own silo, and you would have come out with
Yeah.
different solutions.
Yeah. I really love just the idea of conversation. Even you and I talking right now is like the whole point of conversation, I think, is that like you get to explore ideas that you haven't really thought of yet. And then the person you're talking to is going to give you an idea that's building on your idea, but you can never find it alone. And just where it's like the synergy of 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Did you ever use uploaded files? Did you ever have an export that was uploaded into your Looper
Yeah.
room?
First of all, the amount of storage that's in Looper is so helpful, just to be able to upload and send stuff to finishing and the color files. Um, that's amazing. And then being able to comment on those specifically, because a lot of times, like with color files, we had a lot of crossfades in this film, and it gets super messy and then we had a lot of VFX in it too, so it was doing the whole VFX pipeline and then bringing those back into color, and just being able to upload those and timestamp exactly where they are compared to the final conform file versus the file we're sending to get colored is just super helpful to be able to put notes on everything you're sending to get downloaded. But in our cuts, just, once we'd finish for a day and then we'd upload a cut, just to be able to talk through the notes on a call is super helpful, because it's all like, okay, we've been in tunnel vision for the last 10 hours. Let's step away, look at it in the morning with fresh eyes, put some thoughts on there, and then jump into a room and talk about it. That's one of my favorite parts about being able to talk about notes versus just try to like interpret words, because I feel like the same with like texting versus calling, or texting can be so passive aggressive and you're like, is this like, what's really bugging this person here? And I feel like um, notes, it's always more about interpretation. I heard the best thing, I think it was at Kevin Getz, is a guy who does audience testing for big studio films. And what he says is that the audience can identify the problem, where they can say, the love story is not working for me. And they'll give you ideas on how to fix it, but that's not their job. Their job is to find the problem, and then our job is to find the solution. And I feel like it's the same with clients or directors, where they'll be like, this isn't working for me, but it's usually not a one-to-one, oh, they say the love story is not working, so let's put in another love scene. You're like, the whole focus of the film is about this other idea, and this love story is coming out of left field, so it's our job to diagnose and find the solution, but we have to like be able to interpret the notes beyond just the words that they are. And it's just back to conversation.
Exactly, because you can't always fix the problem in a static cut, because
Exactly.
you don't know what the other options are. You don't have the footage in front of you to see what else could work or how to change it.
Especially when you get close to the end of a cut and then there's still notes. I'm like, it's a domino. Like, it's, if we change, the whole point of this scene was calling back to the thing we set up at the beginning of the film. Every piece of the film is so cohesive. And so it's really just being able to talk like, okay, what does that mean if we're making this change here? How does that affect the rest of the film, and does it still work? Or is the problem we're having here, can that be remedied a different, maybe it's the song. Maybe we're like, it's just feels melodramatic. What if we had something more lighter?
So you also produce as
I'm
well?
actually at Dallas Film Festival right now for a short I produced and edited, and then produced my first feature last year that's going to premiere at Brooklyn Film Festival next month. And right now I'm really like, there's only a handful of directors that I really believe in, that I'm like, I want to produce for you. I'm not necessarily like a freelance producer just looking for work. I'm like, there's really three people in my life that I'm like, I want to help you get your idea out in the best way possible. And if that's connecting a dot somewhere, or like just even being the person that's calling you once a week, like, hey, do we have a new draft yet? Do we have a new, have you looked at the cast yet? Like, just being someone there for them. But it really all started from just wanting to edit narrative features, where I was like, I want to get to the point where I can cut features full time and that be my whole life. And I feel like the way to do that is either be an assistant editor at a post house or a studio, or just find the right editor and be their assistant for 10 years, or just start cutting small indie films. And so I was like, well, if I can produce this film, if I can get this feature off the ground, then let me edit it. And that happened. And then I cut 2 narrative features last year. And then for festivals, I've had a lot of films play like smaller festivals, but I have 2 in Tribeca this year that I cut. And so I'm just excited to see how those festivals are different than the smaller festivals. And just, I love the idea that like the universe will like put the key in the door for you, but you have to open the door. And so just for me, I was like, okay, like they got some films in Tribeca, but like nobody's gonna give it, probably nobody cares. Nobody's gonna do anything for me. But like, is there any way that I can, you know, build off of this moment and like create momentum out of these small little things that we're blessed to have happen?
That's awesome. Are you going to go? Will you be
Oh,
there?
for sure. I have family still in Boston, so I think and we have the Brooklyn Film Festival is right before Tribeca, so I think I'll go see what it's like to live in Brooklyn for a couple weeks, and then go hang with family in Boston.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm holding thumbs for you. I'm sure it's going to be epic.
Thanks. And I'm excited for you to see Kites too.
Yes, yes. Oh, no, I mean, I watched that trailer. It looks amazing. Looks amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's that was a really special film because it's a narrative film, but there was never a script. And so it was just all of these different characters, and the director had put together a lot of outlines, and we then just were like finding the story as we were cutting over like 2 years. And we've been just so deep in it that, we were watching, we're like, okay, this is connecting, like it's working emotionally for me, but we haven't really showed anybody it. And so now I'm just like, I wonder if, I'm so excited to hear how people feel, because like we believe in it and we love it, but you never know what anyone else is going to think. But I feel like it's a really different film, and especially compared to like Jean Jacket and then Mouse, this one I produced and edited, and then Kites, like they're all super different films, but they all kind of are like maybe even building my taste and style of these like sort of darker but kind of hopeful stories, but like in such different styles. And so I'm excited to just watch them all and hear what people think.